at what point do we shove it completely up the ass of all these basketball nerds that told me OKC was just going to run away with this because, I'm a basketball casual. I don't know how OKC is just so much more dominant. Yeah, but I jumped in the playoffs, and Indiana looked good to me. And OKC, everybody hyped them up. And now OKC doesn't know what to do against this Indiana defense. Back in my day, Rick Carlisle ran his zone. Now he's just sending multiple defenders, trapping everybody. And OKC has 21 turnovers. They don't know how to shoot from outside. Let me tell you something about OKC. This seems like a very unserious championship team. They might win in 7, and they'll do their bit of suffering. But this isn't the same type of suffering NBA teams used to do when they won an NBA Finals. They're playing with their food. I don't understand what's happening. But all these nerds that told me that this was a foregone conclusion and they were just going to roll here, they got egg on their face. And hopefully this is a sign of things to come because very clearly Indiana is bothering the OKC Thunder.
Well, if you're saying that it's not the same type of suffering as other teams in the past who have lost and suffered, if they lose Game 7 at home, it's going to be so much suffering for them.
Then they can win next year.
Well, okay, we can say about every team that suffered, you know? It would be it'd be one of the greatest upsets of all time, all right, if they wind up losing Game 7. So I think there will be some suffering. And by the way, look, for the first time ever, ESPN allowed me to go on ESPN.com. I love the expert picks. Every time there's a big series, hockey, baseball, basketball, I love when the expert picks come out. I got to see who's sus. Who's picking against my team, all right? I love counting them up, you know? And so for the very first time, I was allowed to be on the expert picks. Yeah. I was on the expert picks for the finals. I was one of the idiots.
Who's Sam Bontemps picking in this series?
Tim Bontemps.
Yeah. I was allowed to be an expert.
Somebody's saying, like, who the hell's Jonathan Zaslow?
Right, that's right. But that's okay.
We did that when we were
Heat fans.
When we were Heat fans, we'd find any beat writer.
Yeah.
Any single one.
Who's sus?
Yes. Who's doubting us?
Tim McMahon?
It's Sam Amick. That's where I got Sam from.
It's all right.
So for the very first time ever, I was allowed on ESPN.com. I'm an expert. I had Thunder in 4. I was the only one who picked Thunder in 4.
Everybody was so insufferable. Everybody that plodded through this meaningless NBA regular season, they arrived at the NBA Finals and they told me, like, you don't even need to watch this stuff. It's going to be OKC. They're going to roll.
Well, Vegas told you that too.
Yeah. Well, guess what? Nope. Indiana is legit, and TJ is an awesome basketball player. Obi Toppin, incredible contributions. Halliburton was setting people up left and right. What I liked about Game 5 from OKC was SGA was kind of making hockey assist. He wasn't doing the direct assist. He was moving the ball around, and they were crisp. I know Game 6, you're going up against a team that's fighting for their lives. It's a different situation, especially for a team like OKC that hasn't quite gotten over that hump. And hopefully for their fan base, they do that in Game 7. But here's a team that has actually done suffering. Low-key, Indiana has suffered plenty. They lost in the Eastern Conference Finals last year, and if you remember how they lost in that Eastern Conference Final, it was win probabilities that were well above 75. They choked games away. Rick Carlisle barfed all over the front of his quarter zip against the Boston Celtics last year. And don't forget the IST final runner-up. So that's 2 finals, 2 trophies that they had the opportunity in very recent years to win. They didn't do it. So if we're doing big suffering, not big suffering, Indiana's got the suffering edge.
I thought we were doing that today. I'm glad you brought it up. Big suffering, not big suffering.
Chris, I actually have a stat about Mike bringing up TJ McConnell.
Oh, let's do it.
Start of the day, it is your start of the day. Start of the day, it is your start of the day. Start of the day, it is your start of the day. Start of the day, it is your start of the day.
Stat of the day presented by Miller Lite.
TJ McConnell is literally having the most impactful series off the bench in NBA Finals history. He's the first bench player in NBA history with 60-plus points, 25-plus assists, and 15-plus rebounds in an NBA Finals.
Not surprising. It feels that way.
It's perfect for Indiana. I mean, Tony, their offense being able to go, well, that on its own, but the ability to go from Halliburton to McConnell offensively, running your offense, and to be able to put both of them out there, it's like two Tasmanian devils running around, and they also still somehow don't turn the ball over.
I've said on the alley-oop a couple times during the post shows where the offense looks better when TJ McConnell's running it. Mm-hmm. In like a weird way for big stretches of the game. It's like, oh wow, this is what happens when you can get somebody that gets into the paint like that. I could just shoot turnaround jumpers 3 feet in the air, and he's 6 feet tall.
It's crazy
like,
that
how the
Casey
hell
Wallace
does he do this?
Just wouldn't put a hand up. There was a stretch there where
the people put a hand up, and he goes up, like he goes higher than
right,
them.
but it blew my mind. Like, given what McConnell's been doing all year, there was a stretch there with 3 straight possessions where he was on the left side, drove to the same exact spot, right to the right of the paint, and does the turnover jumper. But as he's doing that, Casey Wallace is just understandably, because he doesn't want to get, pump faked, and then, he's throwing an oop to Obi Toppin, who's right in the dunker spot. But the idea that you're not even putting a hand up, TJ McConnell is like 5'2". Yeah. It's amazing to watch him operate.
Mike, to your earlier point, right, the way you started the show.
Yep.
How nerds were saying that Oklahoma City was going to roll, how they're the more superior
Big time
team.
nerds. Big time nerds.
Yeah, nerds were saying that. So, I think what we're seeing here from the Indiana Pacers is an unprecedented run that we've seen ever.
Really?
100%.
I mean, they're playing.
They're playing excellent.
They've been playing this way since January, though. Jeremy's always quick to point out that the numbers over the majority of the season have been tilting this way, and this is a team that's growing up in front of our eyes. I don't think that this is like a shocking turn of events. Now, TJ, continually getting better year over year. This is a guy that's been in the league for a very long time, and you're right about Halliburton and TJ playing together. As good of a playmaker as Halliburton has been, he's also a pretty nifty catch and shoot dude for TJ to find, and TJ just doesn't miss. If he's got the shooter's touch, it'll roll around the rim, it'll bounce in. If it bounces out, it'll just lip out, and Obi Toppin's there to pick it up. A really gifted player.
If we have one rule around here, it's don't give Jeremy credit for anything. But I have to give him credit. He's been on this Pacers team before anyone. Mm-hmm. Early in this season, he's like, that's a good
Ernie
team.
Johnson came on here?
Yes.
Well before.
Yeah. Well, defend your take. You're saying that this is an unprecedented run. I've been listening to Jeremy, and I don't think it's so unprecedented. I've been expecting this.
Regular season is mundane, is what you called it, right? Nobody cares. Plotting doesn't matter. So you're going to give me the stats of the Pacers have been really good in the regular season. You say, okay, they're a really good regular season team that gets bounced in the playoffs by Cleveland, by Boston, by New York, by somebody else. They get to the playoffs, and then all of a sudden they're dusting all of your favorite teams on the way there, and you finally get to the finals. You're like, finally, somebody is going to stop them. Oklahoma City, who's been running amok through the entire league, right? You talk about regular season not mattering. They went 68-14. Mm-hmm. Like, they're one of the best teams historically in NBA history on defense and from a regular season perspective.
That's why the nerds loved them.
Exactly.
The nerds love them. Any team that blows teams out at this clip, they always win the title.
Exactly.
That's what the nerds said.
More. I think they had more double-digit wins than they had losses.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Think about that for a second.
That's why the nerds fancied him.
And then you get to the point of the NBA Finals, you're like, finally, the OKC Thunder are going to put the stop to everything that's going on in Indiana. Great story, but OKC's better. And now, Game 7, you're staring at maybe losing in your own building, the best home court advantage in the NBA, and you may lose? Like, that's a big deal. It's unprecedented what the Pacers are doing.
It is unprecedented. Oh, sorry, Zaz. You go ahead. Go ahead.
If I'm Oklahoma City, like I've obviously been on Oklahoma City's tip. All right, I told you. I'm an expert. I had the Thunder in 4, but if I'm Oklahoma City fan right now, I am really scared going into Game 7. Really scared. Because this Pacer team, look, there's pressure on both teams going into Game 7. It's do or die. Obviously, there's pressure on both teams. But Oklahoma City, after that performance last night, like that looked like a team that's not ready to win a championship.
Nope.
It was such a pathetic,
unserious,
immature effort from Oklahoma City. How were they not ready to win the championship last night? It was such a pathetic effort. I'm really worried about them going into Game 7 if I'm a Thunder fan.
Oklahoma City is called Bricktown. More a Bricktown.
Look, I would.
Breakdown works.
They're aren't they one of the youngest teams
They need to
ever?
edit that.
Yeah.
in the
Second youngest
playoffs?
ever.
So I
Second
mean,
youngest.
we're saying immature, not ready. Maybe they aren't.
But man, they were up 3-2, and they had won the previous 2 games. Like game 4 on the road, went down by double figures late in the third quarter, and then they win game 5 rather easily. Like, all right, this is a team that's ready to win. Nope, they were clearly not.
This felt like the rest of the team saw what Shea and Jalen did in the final 8 minutes or so of the previous game and went, they got us. Like, we're good. And didn't really show up. And if anything, there are sort of 2 arguments to make here. A, this Indiana run going up against OKC is only an argument for the regular season, because if you would have seen what they were doing from January through April, you would have known, hey, the Indiana Pacers, while the 5 seed, are one of not only the best teams in the Eastern Conference, one of the best teams in the NBA since this calendar year started. And so it would have shown you some of the things they were doing. But really what this goes back to is what we were talking about at the very beginning of the playoffs, which is that weakest link theory, showing that depth and having no weaknesses is almost more
That's
important
the new NBA now.
than your strengths.
That's new
and
NBA.
given the way that the contracts are working, the new CBA is going to kick into effect, and that's only going to be more of what's going on. You look at the Pacers, their bench shows up every single night.
They don't have a
Obi
single
Toppin,
player averaging 20 points this series,
They're-
and they're a win away from winning
That's
the NBA
exactly
Finals.
right. And there's not a player who plays poorly when they're out there. And if you look at Oklahoma City last night, Shea and Jalen, while their numbers obviously don't reflect it, they weren't bad last night. Shea was getting doubled on every single possession.
No, they
But
both
if you look
were
down,
well into double figures
There's
at
no
halftime.
assists.
Yeah.
There's no assists across their rotation players because there was no ball movement and no body movement. So this is an example of an Indiana Pacers team that is just built perfectly around their best players and shows you, hey, you might not have to have a whole bunch of 1A superstars to be able to compete if the rest of your roster is the right level of complementary.
I'll tell you who I'm down on at this point. Chet Holmgren.
Yeah.
Wake up, buddy.
Look,
Wake
Chet
up.
Holmgren came into this league. That's supposed to be a guy you could build your franchise around. And he doesn't need to be that guy in Oklahoma City. He's the 3rd guy on the Thunder. I mean, you have a chance to win the championship last night. 2 for 9, 4 points. He's shooting 36% in the series.
That's real bad.
It's the lowest ever since the merger. It's the lowest field goal percentage. A center. Centers are big. I don't know if you know that.
They shoot close to the basket.
The rim is 10 feet,
Yeah.
and centers, they're like 7 feet.
Yeah.
All right.
He's like 17 feet tall.
If you punctuate a stat with since the merger, I'm listening.
Yeah.
The lowest percent ever shot by a center. Since the merger, it now belongs to Chet Holmgren. Chet.
Embarrassing.
Chet. Not good enough.
I guess I got to give credit to Indiana in that outside of a gut check fourth quarter last Friday, I don't think I've seen OKC's best. They just flatly have not lived up to the
Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl is still saying that.
well,
It's coming.
they haven't lived up to the billing, and I guess everyone expects them with a home crowd in Game 7 to finally get over that hump, but I don't know.
I almost think they'd have a better chance if Game 7 was in Indiana.
You do?
I think there's so much pressure on them now in front of the home crowd.
Yeah, Game 5's performance was pretty amazing by both Shea and Jalen Williams, so we have to give them credit for that. But to your point, Zaz, I can make the argument that this game, Game 7...
Wait,
for
are you
Oklahoma-
making it or
I'm
could
making
you?
it. I'm making this argument.
Yeah, you got to differentiate.
I'm making this
man.
argument. I'm making the argument.
You heard his Chet Holmgren take. That was conviction right
Yeah.
there.
I
you
made
made it.
that. I didn't. Maybe I could. No, I made the argument.
I am making the argument
Yeah. Okay.
that this game, Game 7 for Oklahoma City in
game.
their home building,
Big game.
is the most pressure on a team since the Big 3 Heat's Game 6 in Boston.
Oh, come on, man.
Moment.
Oh, wow. Come on.
Disagree.
now.
Prisoner
of the
Come
You
on.
should have said that you could make the
Because-
argument.
I mean, don't make that argument.
Because, as you mentioned, Chet has not shown up in the way that you would expect. This might be a blueprint game for what it is that Oklahoma City is, because they could decide, hey, let's get out ahead on these contracts the way that they did the last time around, and they moved James Harden proactively. This is
Well,
just
that's also because Harden. It was a contract situation.
understandably.
I don't think they're gonna. I don't think it's a blueprint game, but I'm scanning my brain for NBA Finals since 2016. We've had so many random
Right?
ones.
No, it's 16. 16's the one.
Yeah, that you're dead on.
I think that was also different because they'd already won a title. Like that's the one thing I would say is.
So you're saying none of the Warriors
Warriors
series had
not the
moments.
same type of pressure that this individual thing is. Because
You think this is more
you're
pressure
against-
on the Thunder on Sunday than the Warriors had in 2016 in Game 7? Because I disagree.
I mean, maybe. Look, I am certainly being a prisoner of the moment, but I the reason you could make that argument,
But it's
I
since
won't make it.
2016.
Are you
but
making
could-
it?
No, he
you
was taking
could
it back
make
to
this
2012.
argument. I was
really?
taking it back to
Ooh.
2012, and the reason I would argue it is because the Warriors had already won a championship when they
Okay.
were going into that Game 7. Yes, it was blowing a 3-1 lead,
73 wins.
and you don't want to be in that space, and you were the best team ever. But this team was the best in terms of point differential, I believe, of all time. Like this was a truly, truly dominant regular season team
Nerd
with
talk.
the MVP, with an incredible second best player who had 40 points in Game 5. For this team, if they don't show up at home against, yes, we've talked about how good the Pacers have been, but a 5 seed out of the Eastern Conference who's not the reigning champs in the Boston Celtics, this would be a different conversation if they were playing at home against Boston. The fact that this is Indiana going into their home court, if they lose this game, it feels like a giant deal in the NBA.
So taking all of that into account, at the start of Game 7 on Sunday, you're telling me Oklahoma City is not tighter than Indiana is? Because I think they are.
I think Indiana's loose.
I think they are.
I don't think
Indiana's loose.
there's any pressure on
I think
Indiana.
so too. Well, there's pressure. It's Game 7.
Game 7.
Yeah,
Game 7.
But you're like, what to his point, you're just happy to be here at some point.
I think they think they can win. I think they're going in there saying we're going to win.
No, I know they think they're going to win, but if they lose, our stars hurt. We're a 5 seed. Like, this was an awesome year for Indiana.
Halliburton may have been faking. Let's be honest. Wow. You saw last night. It may have been a bit of a faker.
It's an important conversation.